Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Pension Awareness Week. I'm Catherine Murray, Training and Engagement Manager at Civil Service Pensions, here today for Day 2 of Pension Awareness Week, which focuses on the 2015 remedy or McCloud judgment, as it may be known to you. So we've got one of our expert presenters here today to guide you through some key information to make sure you understand what the 2015 remedy is, how to assess if you will be affected by this or not, and then what that actually means for you and any actions that you'll need to consider. Like all sessions this week, today's session is being recorded, so it will be available from around 12 p.m. tomorrow for you to watch back. So if you do miss something, you've missed the start of the session, or you have to log off before the end, that's okay. You'll be able to revisit and watch that again on the Civil Service Pension Scheme website or also on our YouTube channel. So that's from 12 o'clock tomorrow, and all of the sessions we're preparing this week will all be available for you to watch back. After the session's finished today, we'll be sending you a follow-up email that will include some quick links of some useful information that's been shared during the session today, and it will also have a feedback survey there as well. So do please take a little bit of time to leave some feedback following the session, just to see where we can improve these sessions and see how we can get the most value from them for you for the future. We've got a team of experts in the background who are manning the Q&A of this session. So if you have got any burning questions you'd like to pose to the panel today, then please do pop them in the Q&A. And the most upvoted questions we'll focus on answering at the end of the session today. So if you do see a question you'd like to know the answer to, please upvote it rather than like it. And that will allow us to see the questions that you do want us to try and focus on as much as possible. And if you leave your name on your question, our team can also answer your question directly via text in the background as well. So you can think about doing that rather than asking the questions anonymously, then you might get an immediate response from our experts in the background while the session's going on today. All right then, so to get the session underway, I'm going to now pass you over to Joe, who's going to start giving you some key information about McCloud or the 2015 remedy.
Good afternoon and welcome to this session. So today we're talking about the 2015 remedy, McCloud, as Catherine just mentioned, and all the things that you need to think about really in relation to what is and will be going on with this. Now, the 2015 remedy relates to changes that were made in relation to the Alpha scheme. And the launch of Alpha in 2015 as a new scheme that applies to most new members also brought with it some wider changes for existing members as well. Now, under the original plans, those closest to retirement were allowed to remain in their original scheme, and existing members were to be moved over in batches at different times, depending on the exact circumstances and age of members, over into the Alpha scheme over that period. Now, in a couple of court cases, this was challenged and found to be discriminatory on the age basis, that wasn't a fair way of doing that transition. And the idea of the 2015 remedy is that is there to remove that discrimination, to put members into a situation which is deemed to be more consistent. Now, the first part of that remedy was moving all members into Alpha from April 2022, and that has been successfully completed. So from April 2022, Alpha effectively became the only active civil service pension scheme, and all members are now in that. Stage 2 is still ongoing, and that will be the primary focus of what we talk about in this session today. So the remedy period itself relates to that period of time when members were being transitioned, and it affects those who were in the scheme on the 31st of March 2012 and the 1st of April 2015. And we'll be talking a little bit more about a lot of these things as we move through the rest of the session. The remedy period itself, so the period of time that is affected by this, is the 1st of April 2015 to the 31st of March 2022, so effectively 7 years. That's the period we're talking about. That is the only period that will be affected by the choices that we're talking about as well. Now, in terms of what happens to your service for that remedy period, if you are affected, members, certainly for the moment, have been rolled back into their legacy scheme for that remedy period, so 2015 till 2022. by default, members have been moved back into their old scheme or the legacy scheme. We'll be again talking in a bit more detail about what that actually means shortly. Now, members can choose Alpha or their legacy scheme for that remedy period, and that's usually made at retirement. And in some cases, it's as and when benefits come into payment. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of those things again as we move through this presentation. But essentially, that's the basic idea. Members will get a choice about the remedy period as to whether they wish those 7 years to be calculated as their old scheme or the new scheme. By default, it is moved back into the old scheme. So looking at that in a bit more detail, am I affected by the remedy? There's a few things to consider. Was I a member or eligible to be a member of the scheme or qualifying scheme on the 31st of March 2012? Now, for many people, that will be quite straightforward. If it's obviously a bit more complicated, you've moved around jobs, etc., you may need to get a bit more guidance. But the basic idea, was I a member or eligible to be a member of the scheme on the 31st of March 2012? Now, do I also have service between the 1st of April 2015 and the 31st of March 2022? That's the remedy period. Of course, to make a choice about your service, you've got to have service in that period. And that also depends on how much service you had between those periods as well, and depending on your circumstances. If these are true, then it's likely that you're subject to the remedy. You can still check if you're unsure. And there's an Am I Affected remedy tool online, which will talk you through most of the things that you'll need to consider. So this is an online tool that you can use. It will ask you a series of questions, and that will help you pick up if you're not sure as to whether you will be affected by the remedy or not. So some of the key terms involved here, we've talked about some of these briefly already, but for example, the remedy period. Again, that's the period that's affected by this choice. That's the 1st of April 2015 to the 31st of March 2022. Where we use the term legacy schemes, this is any of the old principal civil service pension schemes. That's Classic, Classic Plus, Premium, and New VOS. So any of those schemes we define now as legacy schemes. They're the schemes that are now closed. Deferred Choice Underpin, or DCU, you'll hear this term used as well. That basically just means the choice that you will get. Deferred Choice Underpin is the slightly more technical name given to it. Deferred because you don't make it immediately. Choice, obviously, because it's a choice. And underpin because part of the idea of this is that you should not be worse off as a result of this option. You should basically be the same off or better than you were before. So there is effectively an underpin to those terms. Now, some of you may have, or many of you will have more than one pension directly as a result of this option. And those of you with more than one pension may have a variety of options about how and when to claim those schemes, what your lump sums look like and what you can do with them. And that's as a result of some kind of combination of your older PCSPS or legacy scheme and Alpha. As an example, we have Michelle, who is a dual member. She's currently contributing to Alpha, but was previously a member of the Premium scheme. So she was in Premium before, she's now in Alpha. Her state pension age is 67, but she wants to retire at 62, so 5 years earlier than that state pension age. So what options will she have at retirement? Now, she's got a premium pension of £10,000 per year. And that would give her a maximum lump sum available of 4285714. So she's got, by default, a pension of £10,000 per year. She can choose to take a lump sum of up to 42857.14. If she did take all of that lump sum, that would reduce her pension to 6,42858. Now, she's also got an Alpha pension of £8,000 per year. That pension she would be taking early. Premium pension at 62 is over the normal pension age for that scheme. The Alpha pension will be early, and that will be approximately 5 years early. If she's taking it at 62, that's 5 years earlier than her state pension age of 67. In that case, there's going to be a reduction applied, That reduction applied for taking alpha at 62 would reduce the £8,000 pension to £6,400. That would then mean that the maximum lump sum that she would have available is 27428.57. So again, she can take a lump sum of up to 27.5-ish. If she does, that will reduce her pension, and that £6,400 pension will reduce down to 4114.29. So she's got some decisions there to make about what pension she wants to claim, also whether she wants to take some lump sum, and if so, how much. And it's worth bearing in mind that these are maximum lump sums. A member can choose to take anywhere up to that amount. Now, Michelle decides to take all of her pension benefits at 62 from premium and from alpha. She could have chosen to have taken one or the other, but in her case, she's chosen to take both. She opts to take the maximum lump sum from each scheme as well. So as well as taking both pensions, she's taking the maximum amount of lump sum that she can get from both. That means she'll be left with an annual pension in retirement of £10,500, 10,542.87. She'll also have a tax-free lump sum at retirement of £70,285.72. And of course, she's done some shrewd financial planning to make sure that balance works well for her, both at the time of retirement, but also thinking further into the future, say 10, 15 years after retirement. She wants to be confident that she's done whatever she wants to with that lump sum, but also that income is going to be enough for her to live on comfortably. Now, as an example with Classic, we have Alex, who is in the Classic scheme in April 1997. He plans to partially retire in April 2026 when he'll be 58. Alex can choose at partial retirement to have his Classic benefits from April 97 till March 2022. And then his alpha benefits from April 2022 to April 2026. So that would be his option A effectively, or the default option for his remedy benefits. He'll also get the choice though to switch those into alpha. So switch the remedy benefits into alpha instead. And what that would mean for him is his Classic benefits would then just be April 1997 to March 2015. But his alpha benefits from 2015 until 2026. So much longer in the alpha scheme in that respect. And there's a variety of things that he'll need to take into account, a lot of which will be sorted out by figures that he gets at the point of getting his pack. And that will explain a lot of the things that he'll need to consider, such as early payment penalties, etc. as well. Now, Alex can give up some pension from both Classic and Alpha to have additional lump sum at retirement. Now, there is an online lump sum calculator that's available through the calculators page of the Civil Service Pensions website. If you search for calculators on that website, it will pick out a whole page of calculators, but one of those specifically is a lump sum calculator. Now, there are other calculators that will do that, but the lump sum one is particularly useful if you're wanting to just focus on the lump sum. And that will let you have a play around with claiming more or less lump sum, show you what's available and the impact that that will have on your pension as well. Alex can also choose not to claim the alpha benefits at partial retirement and only claim the Classic pension if he wished as well. If he's in a position where he doesn't need all those benefits immediately, for example, and doesn't want the alpha pension to be reduced, he could claim them separately. If he wants all of that income and he's happy with the reduction, bearing in mind you'll get that pension paid for more years, he could take them both at the same time. Now, as part of the pack that you'll receive at the time, you'll obviously get your normal pension options, but part of that will be the 2015 remedy choice. And you'll have, as on the left-hand sheet there, notes to explain what's included. So that will explain everything that's in that pack, the things that you'll need to think about, how it works, and what you'll need to do next. We'll also explain the 2015 remedy choice, and you'll need to look through that carefully, of course. It will explain which of those options is which, what that means in terms of your service, and you can read that hopefully on the right-hand page just about. Key thing is, of course, though, what the actual benefits look like. There's a variety of things that will affect those figures, things like inflation, what your pay has done, how your working patterns have changed, and all these kind of things will affect those options and which one is better for you at the point of making this choice. The key thing is, at the point that you're making the choice, which one of those is the best option for you. And the pack will walk you through that and help you explain in front of you which of those options is currently working out better for you. In many cases, this will be quite obvious. It's something that legally you have to make that choice. We can't make that choice for you. But do look through that pack carefully. Seek out further guidance online if you do need further help. And at that point, I will pass back to Catherine.
Thanks, Joe. That was really interesting to see. As Joe mentioned there, when you've got that choice to make, it is yours to make. We can't make that choice for you. And I know I've seen examples of some members saying, well, the figures are quite different from option A to option B, so why wouldn't I make that choice? But even though the figures might seem quite obvious as to which choice it is, like Joe's just said, it is your choice to make. We can't make it for you. So it's not a trick question. It's not something where you think there might be something that you're missing. It's just very simply that you have to be in control and decide which of the options you'd like to go for. For some members, the difference between option A and option B might be quite small. For others, it might be larger. It's just going to depend on each individual circumstances. And we'll cover more off about why there are differences as we run through the session today. Now, just a quick note on some technical issues. We've heard that some members have been having some issues accessing the invites for the sessions. As you're on this session, I assume you have managed to find it. That's great. But just a little note, just in case anyone has signed up for future sessions, they're having some difficulties. When you made your booking, you'll have been sent an email, and that gives you a link to add to your calendar, and that gives you the invite to join the session. So then you'll just need to go into your calendar, and that should give you the link that you can click on and say join this session. So if you've got any technical difficulties, do just have a look in your Outlook calendar or whatever platform you're using, and hopefully you should be able to get the link from there. Now, lots of questions are coming through. That's great. So do keep upvoting and see what you would like us to answer when we get to the Q&A part of the session today. We'll do our best to have as much time as possible to answer your questions. If there is more that you'd like to know about your pension, for example, things like how your pension benefits are calculated, what your options are if you're interested in paying more towards your pension, you can sign up to attend one of our Pension Power sessions, which we do run daily, a 1-hour session also on Teams, but that's run to a much smaller group. So those are available online, and there are links in the Q&A to where you can sign up to attend one of those sessions as well. So the options are available. And for other sources of information, we have things like the Civil Service Pensions podcast. We have a couple of episodes specifically on the 2015 Remediable McCloud, as well as a host of whole other options and useful information as well. So if you'd like your information in a different way, there are still ways you can get that information if you were unable to attend the sessions live today. All right then, so I'll pass you back to Joe, who's probably just managed to catch his breath, who's going to continue on and give you more useful information when it comes to 2015 Remediable McCloud. So back to you, Joe.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. We'll have a look at some more things to do with Remedy. And the Remedy calculator or modeler is one of the things that's quite useful for the Remedy itself, but also in general in terms of planning or getting some idea about where you're heading in the future. Now, the modeler itself is a calculator that allows you to do some projections into the future. It's not an exact tool, mainly because it is projecting into the future. It's estimating what you will have as you carry on building up benefits. And of course, we don't know exactly what you'll be earning in the future. So there's an estimation done based on your earnings at this point in time. Therefore, the further ahead you're projecting, the less accurate that will be. The nearer you are to retirement age, the closer the figures will be. But in all circumstances, it's going to be giving you a good idea about where your pension is heading. And the idea is it's there to help you do some planning. And the idea is The closer you then get to retirement, the closer those figures will get, until you're getting close to, at which point it should just be a case of fine-tuning those estimates when you get your final figures. So you should have done close enough planning with the modeler. When you get your final figures, it should just be a case of fine-tuning what you're looking at. Now, some of the key figures with this are setting your age and lump sum. You'll see the two little dials with 59 and 25 on the left-hand side, or 64 and 25 on the right-hand page as well. Those are two dials that let you play around with what you are calculating. So on the left-hand screenshot, that has been set to calculate to 59, on the right-hand one to 64. And in both cases, the full lump sum has been selected, which is 25% of the pot. Or I should say, the value of your pension rather than the pot in these cases. Now, the idea is you can then play around with that retirement age and estimate what your pension will be worth at different points. And then also change the lump sum to get a feel for how much lump sum you will get. It's worth, in some cases, dropping the lump sum down to 0 to begin with to see what your maximum income will be, so that you can get a feel for at what point you could afford to retire, for example. And then have a play around with the lump sum to get a feel for how much lump sum you might want to take and what impact that will have on your pension. And you do that by clicking on the two circles and then changing the slider. Please note you'll have to click the calculate button then to get the calculator to adjust its calculations. You'll also notice at the top left, option A and option B. This is allowing you to switch backwards and forwards between your two remedy options. So as you play around with those figures, it's worth having a flip between those two different options to see how that scenario would be different for you if you chose option A or if you chose option B. There's also options on there to be able to add a slight increase per year. So you can add, say, 1% per year to get a rough idea of what small pay rises, for example, or inflation might look like when added to those figures as well. There is a video as well attached to the calculator just underneath the bottom, which will talk you through how to use that calculator. And there is one of the sessions later this week talking about where we're going in the future with this kind of technology as well. Now, some of the scenarios to consider, some of the things to think about in terms of remedy. Now, the final salary schemes, this is Classic, Classic Plus and Premium specifically. And final salary benefits continue to be linked to your salary. The service that you've built up is only counted up until 2022. The exact figure will depend on which option you choose, A or B. But essentially, it's not building up anymore since 2022. The pay that we use, though, is continuing to be linked to your salary. So whilst the service is frozen, we're continuing to look at your pay as that changes each year. If your salary does change prior to retirement, this may impact your benefits. Now, particularly big pay rises, for example, will have quite a noticeable impact on Classic, Classic Plus and Premium. It will affect Remedy Alpha as well, but not in as big a way as it will do Classic, Classic Plus and Premium. So as an example, that change could cause a bigger change to your option A than your option B. And that's something, if that happens between now and the last time you looked at the calculator, for example, will have a noticeable impact on those figures and affect what you get in your pack. Another thing to consider is inflation. Now, alpha benefits are adjusted annually with inflation. The rate of inflation depends on economic performance and the rates that have been applied to public sector pensions. Inflation applies to your total pension on the 1st of April based on the balance at the 31st of March. Now, final salary benefits aren't adjusted with inflation in the same way whilst you remain in service. So if there's large inflationary increases, that could have a bigger impact on option B than A. And obviously we have seen some large inflationary increases just recently, so that can have a big impact on which of those options is the best for you. Now, we'll also consider annual benefit statements. Annual benefit statements are your annual summary of the pension that you have earned up to date. So we've talked about the calculator, which is estimating your pension in the future, and is also applying things like early payment penalties and allowing you to play around with the lump sum. Benefit statement is a flat statement of the pension that you have earned to date. So the two things are not doing quite the same calculation. For anybody affected by Remedy, in terms of your benefit statement, you'll receive two statements: the annual benefit statement, but then also the alternative scheme option annual benefit statement. Essentially, the first one is your option A figures, the second one is your option B figures, and you'll receive those as two separate statements. So you'll be able to see side by side which of those two sets of benefits is currently looking better for you. Now, if you're retiring in the near future, obviously that'll be quite close to what you're going to receive. If you're not retiring for a while, you want to keep an eye on those each year to see which of those is currently the best for you. Now, we'll also talk about RSS, remedial service statements. These are, in this case, statements for people that have these options to make at some point already. RSS, or remedial service statements, started going out at the end of January 2025, with almost half having been issued by the 31st of March 2025. And just to reiterate, for those of you that have yet to claim pension, you will get your option at that point. For people that have already claimed some pension that was affected by the remedy, these are the people that we're talking about. So people that have already claimed pension in that period, they'll be getting these remedial statements to allow them to make that choice. Members should use the member portal or complete the paper forms to make that choice. If members haven't received their RSS yet, it will arrive in due course. They're all being issued as we go forwards. Payments will start to be issued from the start of July 2025. So in terms of those statements, members have 1 year from receipt of that statement to make their choice. If a choice is not returned within the 12-month period, then their existing benefits will remain in place. Now, up to a year to make that choice. If a choice is not made, then it will stay as it is. Now, there's lots more information about here on all sorts of subjects. I'm imagining that many of you have probably signed up to some of the other sessions this week. There's also other sources that you can use to support choices and your awareness of the options that are available. Civil Service Pensions podcasts are available, which cover a whole range of different subjects. They're quite bite-sized and chatty in nature. They're not too heavy going. They do focus on a lot of things, but there is some good information on there about Remedy, particularly if you do enjoy or find useful that way of learning. They can be a great way to just find out a bit more on Remedy and all sorts of other subjects as well. We also do the free pension power briefings, which some of you may have attended already. We run several of these every week. They're always free to attend. We run them all the time. You can essentially attend as many as you wish to. And they're just a good overall view of pensions as a whole. We do cover Remedy within that as well. In the regular pension power, obviously the new joiner pension power is intended for people newer to the civil service that therefore won't be affected by the Remedy. And at this point, I will be passing back to Catherine and we will get ready for your questions.
That's wonderful. So lots of useful information there, hopefully, for you about the 2015 remedy, and of course, key things to take away. If you are approaching retirement, you'll be given the choice to make during that retirement process when it occurs. So therefore, if retirement's quite a long way into the future, it's really just something to have some general awareness of. It's not something that you need to be acting on at the moment and taking any action, but do check your annual benefit statement every year to have a good idea of, you know, which choice is likely to be the best one for you. But of course, which is best might change between now and retirement, depending on the things that Joe's just talked about, how your salary changes between now and retirement, what the future rates of inflation are going to be. Also, the age you are when you decide to retire and claim your pension benefits is going to make a difference as well to which choice is the best one. So all of those things will make a difference. We've had lots of questions coming in. Thank you so much. So we're going to start by going through those with the most upvoted questions being answered first. I'm going to pause these to Joe for you in just a second. So let me just have a look and refresh my page and see what currently the most upvoted question is for you. And let's make our way through these. Okay, so Joe, our first question comes from Louise. Is it possible to take my legacy pension at 60, but not take my alpha at that time, and then take my alpha pension at 67? If you could answer that for us, please, Joe.
So there's a few things that can affect the answer to that, really. There's a few different scenarios that could happen. One of the key things to bear in mind is that you can't ordinarily claim pension without some form of retirement. So if you're thinking about claiming either or both of those pensions at 60, that would involve some form of retirement. So there's then two scenarios that could happen. One is that you've fully retired and left altogether, at which point you can claim your older pension first, and then just leave your alpha pension alone. And you can claim that then at a later date of your choice, essentially. So if you got 2 years down the line and decided you needed the extra income at 62, for example, you could then claim your alpha, or if you wait all the way till 67, that's also fine. But that scenario involves you having left. The other option is partial retirement, which you may or may not be familiar with, but this involves partially retiring, so doing something to your job that results in at least a 20% drop in your income, but remaining in work. So say dropping to 3 or 4 days a week, for example, if you're full-time now. What you could then do is claim your older pension, carry on working for however long you wish to, and then claim your alpha further down the line. Now, partial retirement is a bit more complicated. There's quite a few things you need to think about with partial retirement. So if you're going down that route, you'd need to do a bit more research. It's more than I can fully go into in this session. But simple answer to that question is, to do that, you would need to take some form of retirement, whether that is full or partial. You can't claim it while just carrying on in normal employment.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I think that's a good answer. And if you do want more information about how you can do that and take partial retirement, we did talk about that quite a lot in the retirement session yesterday. So you can revisit that recording of that session, which is available for you to watch online now if you would like to. Our next most upvoted question is about the retirement modeler. So it says, I am a few years from retirement and have been using the retirement modeler to prepare. How accurate is it? Joe, if you could give us your thoughts on that, please.
So the modeler should be giving you pretty close figures to what you can expect. And one of the benefits of the modeler compared to using your benefit statement is that any conditions such as early payment reductions will be applied to the figures on that. So the modeler will be taking account of early payment reductions and adjustments that you make to lump sum. So where it's showing you the lump sum and you're adjusting that to take some or no lump sum, it will make those adjustments for you, and that will help you to plan. Now, the figures on the modeler aren't going to be exact. We won't have the exact confirmation of your earnings, pay, etc. at that point. If you are quite close to the age that you're modelling to, the figures will be pretty close. They should be close enough to allow you to do some planning so that you can get a good idea about what you want to do and having an idea if there's enough for you to retire on, for example. Then when you get your final statement, that should just be a case of fine-tuning those figures. So it should just be a case of tweaking your expectations when you've had those final confirmed figures, but it should have been pretty close on the modeler.
Thanks, Joe. That's great. Yeah, and there's a follow-up question. I'm just going to pick up myself there. So someone's asked which figures are more accurate, the ones on the annual benefit statement or the retirement modeler? And the answer is that both of those sets of figures are giving you accurate information. The annual benefit statement gives you the value of your pension to the 31st of March in the year that it's calculated, assuming you then claim the pension that it gives you from the normal pension age for that scheme. So any pension benefits for Classic, Classic Plus and Premium, the normal pension age for those is 60, For Nuvos, your normal pension age is 65. And for Alpha, your normal pension age mirrors your state pension age. The retirement modeler then goes further than that. And it, as Joe mentioned, includes the early retirement reductions if you're looking to take those pension benefits early. But it also includes future projections. So if you're someone who's got quite a long time to go until retirement, for example, then it's going to project the pension that you're going to accrue between now and then, whereas the annual benefit statement doesn't do that. It just shows what you've built up so far. So both sets of figures are accurate, but they are actually showing you different things. So if your annual benefit statement, if you had resigned on the 31st of March this year and then come back and claim that pension at normal pension age, that's the pension you'd expect to receive. It doesn't have those projections, doesn't have those early retirement reductions built in like the modeler does. So hopefully that helps provide some clarity. Joe, our next most upvoted question comes from Anonymous. So do only full years count towards the pension, or do months count too? For example, if I retire after 35 years and 11 months working, do I only get 35 years, or do the 11 months count as well?
In these terms, there's a couple of ways this may affect you, and there's a question that's often asked both about the final salary schemes and the newer schemes as well, so I'll answer both. Now, first thing to remember is that your service for your older scheme, your Classic Plus or Premium, froze in 2022, so you're not building up any more service now anyway. That service as it is only counts towards those older schemes. Now, the service that is used for Classic Plus and Premium is counted down to the day. So the service that you had up until the end of March 2022, we will count from when you started up until that day, and it will include literally down to the day that you worked in that period, including things like part-time periods and discounting any unpaid periods potentially as well. Now, in terms of the care schemes, so Alpha and Nuvos, these schemes work in terms of what you actually earned in that period. And there's sometimes a bit of confusion that if you only worked a part year, that wouldn't count, or how much pay would be included. For those schemes, we literally count what you earned in that period. So as a very easy example, if your normal pay was £20,000 a year and you worked a full year, we'd be using £20,000 towards your Alpha or Nuvos pension. If in that last year though you'd only worked 6 months, you'd have earned about £10,000. So for that year, we would just use the £10,000. So that will be calculated down to the penny for that period for your newer scheme as well. So in both cases, essentially, we do calculate it as finely as possible, down to the day or down to the penny as appropriate. And I'll pass back to Catherine.
Thank you, Joe. Our next question comes from Laurel. When do you get your pension quote? Is it only when you activate the retirement process? And then also, is it mailed out and or on the civil service pension portal?
So in terms of the pack, the final pack is issued obviously as you are leaving with the confirmed options in it. The timescale for that is usually 4 months notice. So letting us know 4 months ahead of your chosen retirement date. Now, your employer may have a different notice period that they ask for. We will ask for 4 months. Within that, then, we will aim to send you your pack about 2 months before your chosen retirement date, or as close as we possibly can. Now, that can be affected things like how far ahead we were notified, whether we've had to request data from your employer, and whether that's been easy to rectify. But the aim is 2 months ahead. You will then get a paper pack that will have those details in it, which is in part because we need a wet signature in terms of the options that you return as well. So you'll get the options pack with the remedy options, your pensions options in it. You then have about a month to think over those options, so long as we're getting your pack back at least a month before the chosen retirement date. At that point, you can send it back to us, and then when you fully retire or fully complete that information and we've completed the award, we'll then send you a paper pack to confirm that as well. Catherine?
That's great. Thank you very much, Joe. Okay, so our next most upvoted question from Colette. So I'm partially retired already. I'm not fully retired. Will my partial pension be recalculated and any arrears paid before I fully retire?
So there's a few. So if you're in the position where you'd already partially retired and you've not yet had the option for remedy, for example, you'll be sent that as part of the packs that we were talking about. And that will essentially explain to you what would be due. If there's a change in those benefits, then that would be back paid to you in those terms. In terms of ignoring remedy and just partial retirement and full retirement, the benefits that you've claimed already from partial, ignoring remedy, would normally stay the same. But then you've carried on building up benefits since then. That will be calculated and paid at the point of leaving and paid out at the same time as the existing partial. So in a straightforward case, you'll get two pensions that are joined together. If you do have a remedy option, then yes, that will be recalculated and the appropriate pension put into payment as appropriate.
Thanks very much, Joe. So yeah, I think, it's a difficult question to answer because it's going to depend on your individual circumstances. It will depend on when you plan to fully retire and claim those additional pension benefits. We are still working through those members who've already retired and haven't been given a remedy option. And those cases are going to continue for another, I think it's until March 2027. So it depends on whether you're going to fully retire before that point or not, as to whether the option will be provided to you before you claim those pension benefits again on full retirement. So it depends on a lot of different factors. So it's hard to give a definitive answer to that question, unfortunately. So our next question comes from Mark. Does going partial retirement affect the final salary element in Classic, as it is considered for the last 3 years' salary?
So again, there's a few different scenarios that could happen here, but the basic idea is that when you take partial retirement and you're claiming Classic, the pension at the time of partial is calculated based on your pay at that point. Now, depending on what you do, you may be claiming some or all of that Classic pension. Now, if you've claimed it all at partial, that is then finalised and paid at that point. If you've only claimed some of your Classic at that point, so let's say you've claimed about half of your Classic award at partial and you've left half alone, when you come to fully retire, then that half will be calculated based on your pay at that time. It's also worth noting that's always on your full-time rate of pay. So if you'd gone, or your full-time equivalent, so if you'd gone part-time to take that partial retirement, when you come to claim the last part of your Classic pension, we will use the pay at the point of you leaving. That'll be based on your full-time earnings. So that will be within 3 years of your leaving date. Equally, at partial retirement, the pay used will be within 3 years of that partial retirement date. So you'd have 2 different periods of pay used, one for each.
A question now about taking your premium pension from David. Could I take my full premium pension at 55, keep working, and take my alpha pension later?
So yes, you could. The one thing to bear in mind with that scenario is if you're claiming your premium at 55, the premium is going to be reduced because you'd be claiming that portion approximately 5 years early. So you could claim the premium that you've built up to that point. It will be reduced. You'll carry on building up alpha pension, obviously, whilst you carry on working. And then you can essentially claim that at any point that you want from then on when you wish to retire, essentially. Bear in mind, of course, if you need to, you can claim some or all of your alpha pension at 55 as well. That will also have a reduction applied to it, but that will be explained to you in the pack that you receive at the time. Also, you can use the calculators that are on the website, which will work out that reduction for you. The good thing about the calculators is you can put in details from, say, your benefit statement to get an idea about what effect claiming at different dates would have. So you could look at claiming at 55 or 56, and it will show you the value for both of those pensions as to how it will alter. And it can start to give you a feel for what age might be practical for you, how that might work out for you, and give you a variety of options to consider as well.
Thank you, Joel. A question now about the modeler and the lump sum that's shown on there from Carol. So does the modeler lump sum show both benefit schemes added together?
So the modeler will show you the default screen. So the kind of screen that we looked at earlier will show you everything kind of to use a technical term, lumped in together. There is, though, within that modeler, the option to see a breakdown of how much is coming out of each of those pots. So when you're looking at the full version of the screen, there's an arrow on the left-hand side of the screen which you can click, and that takes you to another screen, which then breaks down how much is coming out of each pot. So what you can do is look at the overall screen to get a feel for what the overall value of your pot is. Then if you're thinking about just claiming part, have a look at that other screen just to get a feel for how much is coming out of each of your different pensions. And you can flick backwards and forwards between the two. Obviously, go back to the main screen, change the age, have a look back and have a play around. And that will give you a good feel for what is happening to your pension, but also, again, allow you to do a bit of planning to figure out where and when might be best for you to consider taking those options.
Okay, Joe, so we've got a next question for you now, comes from Carla, who's asked, do I need to worry about this if I am a long way from retirement age? I had a letter saying I'm affected. I'm 35, so a long way off retirement. Should I be doing anything now? What's your advice there?
So as somebody that works in pensions, I would tell you to always be considering your pensions, whatever age you are, is my responsible and grown-up answer. Practical terms, the decisions you make are obviously going to be very important. It's going to have a huge impact on your retirement. In terms of direct action, if you wish, not specifically, no. It's a good idea to be aware of what those options are, have a feel for how it's affecting your pension, not least because decisions you make in the future career-wise will affect those benefits as well. Well, we've talked about big pay rises having a big impact on older pensions, for example. But you don't need to worry about it as such, possibly until later in your career. Do consider things as well, though, about forward planning for things like top-ups. It's worth thinking about those kind of things at that age, mainly because the earlier you think about things like top-ups, the longer it gives you to have an impact on your benefits. If you're thinking about things like the value of your pension is looking a bit low for you to retire when you hit 60, for example, the sooner you think about things like added pension or AVCs or anything similar, the more time you've got to build those benefits up. If you're happy with where you are, then of course you don't need to do anything for now, but do just keep your pension in mind. As life inevitably changes, you'll want to be aware of that to help with future planning, and in the future maybe make changes if you need to. But essentially in the short term, don't panic, just be aware of it and keep on top of what's happening. Catherine.
Following on from that, one of the episodes of season 1 of our podcast is around why it's important to think about your pension in your 30s and 40s. So that might just be a good little reference point to have a look at that maybe puts things into a little bit more context as well. The earlier you start to plan can be a positive thing. So something to think about there too. Another question for you, Joe. This comes from Sarah. Do you have to reduce your hours at 60 to take your classic pension?
So you do if you're taking partial retirement. Well, actually, no, I'll go back a step on that. If you want to take your pension at 60, obviously one option is to fully retire. But in your case, it sounds like that's not what you're thinking about. Now, if you are wanting to partially retire, which is where you're staying in service, but you are reducing your earnings, carrying on working, claiming some pension, and then fully retiring further down the line, the key part of that is that you need to reduce your earnings. So at 60, you need to do something that reduces your earnings by at least 20%. Now, for most people, the most obvious way of doing that is by going part-time. And the idea of partial retirement is to allow a bit of flexibility in the build-up to full retirement to let you start to adjust your circumstances and still carry on building up some pension. Now, there are other ways around that. Depends on your job, what options are available to you, things like grade changes. In some cases, people might be able to change their roles and responsibilities to affect their earnings. So for most people, going part-time is the main way to do that. You may have other options available, but that will depend on your job and your career. Catherine.
We've got a few minutes left. We're going to continue getting through as many of your questions as we can, but just to point out that on the Civil Service Pension Scheme website, there are Remedy is quite high profile. It's on the home page. You'll see on the right hand side 2015 Remedy McCloud, and there are a lot of frequently asked questions on there that are already answered for you. So if you are looking for more information and we don't get to your question today, then it's well worth having a little look on there. And there are still sort of changes happening in the background, policy being worked through when it comes to 2015 Remedy. So whenever there is any new information, new timescales and things like that, they are all posted on the Civil Service Pension Scheme website. So you can keep up to date and see lots of the information that you're looking for online if you do have a little look. So do keep that in mind if we don't get to your question with the time that we've got remaining. So slightly unrelated, but we'll ask this question anyway from David. So Joe, can I transfer an existing pension from a previous employer into my current one?
So the rules about transfers have changed over the years, and at different times, different rules were in place. The broad rule now for alpha members is that any transfers need to have been completed within your first 12 months. Which for most people probably on a 2015 remedy call means that you are outside of that period. Anybody starting the scheme will be given that option as part of their starter pack and given a 12-month window to complete that transfer. And then those benefits will be brought into our scheme, and you'll be given the option about actually completing that transfer or not. If you are within that 12-month period, you would apply to us directly. We would get you a quote. You'd be able to see what those benefits will buy for you in our scheme, and then so long as the whole process completes within 12 months, that will be fine. Chances are, if you're on this kind of session, then you're probably outside of that 12-month window, so it may well no longer be an option for you.
Our next question is about final salary calculations. So this comes from Elaine. So what period is the final salary calculated upon? Is it your last 3 years' salary? I guess it's going to depend on the scheme, isn't it? What can you tell us there, Joe?
Very slightly depending on which scheme. So the classic scheme, for example, as you mentioned, 3 years, I'm going to presume that's the scheme you're in, but I'll touch on premium as well. The basic idea is for classic, we look at your last 3 years of service. And within that 3 year period, we look to pack out the best year's worth of pay. And it's worth noticing that is a year's worth of pay, not just your salary within that period. So it will be essentially what you earned over that period. And in classic, that is 3 years back from the point of calculation. So as with partial retirement, as we talked about earlier, if you partially retired, we would look back 3 years from that date to find the best year's worth. For many people, that will just be the last 12 months. If you left some classic alone to claim at full retirement, then for that period, we would look back 3 years from when you fully retire. Now, for premium and classic plus, it's a little bit more complicated. We look at a few different calculations, but we can look back as far as 13 years. Again, and inflation can be taken into account with some early years as well. So premium members at the moment may find that we use an earlier period of service because inflation has been used for and accounted. So premium, a little bit more complicated, can be up to 13 years. Classic, generally speaking, is 3 years back from the day that you are claiming those benefits.
Thanks, Joe. Just another comment here about annual benefit statements and the retirement modeler. So why are the annual benefit statement figures wildly different from those on the calculator? And there's quite a few comments that have been added to that quite recently. We have covered that off. So again, the annual benefit statement gives you the figures at the 31st of March, the year of the statement, assuming you claim that pension at normal pension age. The modeler gives you different figures. So it gives you projections of future service and future earnings. It gives you reduction factors if you're claiming those pension benefits early. It also allows you to look at the maximum lump sum that's available, which the annual benefit statement doesn't do. So there's no expectation that the figures between the annual benefit statement and the modeler should be the same, because they're giving you different calculations. They're not giving you the same information. So hopefully that helps clarify that point again. So a question from Carol. On the screen, it said something about 25%, and 25% was mentioned yesterday. What is the 25% about? I think we're talking about lump sums and what's tax-free. Joe, if you could just give us some information there.
It's essentially an unfortunate way that the tax laws apply to pensions, and that private sector pensions, the rule applies a little bit more obviously. For our schemes, the way it applies, there's some more complicated maths in the background that has to be applied. And the basic idea is that under tax rules, you can claim up to 25% of your pension pot as lump sum. And that's essentially the basic idea of the tax law. Now, for a pension scheme where you've got a pot of cash, more like a private sector pension, that's quite straightforward to work out. It's 25% of whatever is in your pot. Now, for our pensions, as we've talked about, we don't have a pot of money. We're getting a pension that is based on our career. So how long we've been in service, what kind of pay we've received, and that's used to calculate the pension. Now, the rule is still the same, 25% of the value. So the calculator is showing you what is 25% of the value of your pension. Now, to get that figure, it has to do some maths in the background to work out the value of the pension as a whole and what 25% of that is. So 25% is effectively just the maximum that you can get. The fact that it's 25%, in some ways, in terms of what you're planning for, doesn't really matter. It's either all, half, nothing, whatever of what's available. 25% just happens to be the figure that is used. So if you think of 25% as the maximum, that's the maximum lump sum you can take. You can take anywhere up to that amount. I hope that makes that a little bit more straightforward.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for answering all those questions and your presentation. That's been a really good session. We need to wrap things up there. We're pretty much out of time. So just a reminder that this session is being recorded. So if you do want to watch it back, you will be able to find it on the scheme website or on our YouTube channel from around 12 o'clock tomorrow. And we do still have places on the other sessions that we have taking place this week. That includes a session on Friday, which demos some upcoming changes to the pension portal and the retirement modeler. So you'll get a sneak peek of what that's going to look like when the new system goes live if you are interested. And there are still places on that and the other sessions we've got running tomorrow and Thursday as well. We will be sending out that follow-up email later this afternoon, so you can look at some of the quick links to where you can find some of the useful information when it comes to 2015 Remedy and all of the civil service pensions related topics as well. And we've got pension power sessions available online for you to attend if you want to attend a smaller session and find out more about your pension, how it's calculated, and all of the other key bits of information that you need to know. Okay, thanks so much, everybody. Have a great rest of the day, and hopefully we'll see you later in the week on some of our other sessions. Bye for now.